Greetings, this is IJ Thomas, your coach for high bands and 8777 bands in the IELTS. I have personally scored an 8.5 in IELTS Academic, and I'm looking forward to impart skills to you so that you can do as well as I did or better. But this is a common question that comes in the IELTS writing task 1 for the academic learners, which is the pie chart. You have to write a report. As I teach here, I'll be just teaching two strategies to get high scores in the body paragraphs. You remember that the task that you have to do is to summarize the information by selecting, reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. So I'm going to use this session about the importance of making comparisons. As usual, you have to write at least 150 words. Going for 160 to 180 is good enough. Remember, you have 15 minutes to write and 5 minutes to check, because there will be time constraints. So don't write too much and be careful to not put all the details. Otherwise, your task will be incomplete. But this is a question that I have shown all the learners in the class, and I'm just recording this for a general audience. So you begin by mentioning about the introduction here, and we learned about the overall statement. But now I am coming to the body paragraph 1 and 2. Pay close attention that you need to, in the body paragraph, after mentioning the overall statement, analyze the most important or the significant data that the chart is showing. Then go for the next important data. Use comparative language. By comparative language, I mean words like contrastingly, uh, in contrast. You will also start showing in the data what are the contrasting trends, so that comparative language is employed. Look for trends like half, quarter, thrice, double, twice. If it is 4 times more, you can put 4 times. Instead of putting 10 years, use decade and century. Express data series in parentheses. By that I mean brackets, as it is commonly known in English. You don't have to write 27%, 30%. You can just put the figures in parentheses. And if the data is the same for two parameters, use the word identical. But students of mine who have already seen this would know this question, but I'm just showing it again. You can take a screenshot for your use and go ahead and see how I have interpreted and reported this data. So here I would begin by scrutinizing the data closer. Remember, in your report, you're also looking for big words, lex common vocabulary, so that your lexical resources, LR, increases. So you'll put scrutinizing the data closer. Computer games is the activity of choice for most boys at 34%. Notice that instead of saying it is the topmost or the first activity, most preferred, you can use those words. I have used something different, activity of choice, and I brought in the superlative here, most boys at 34%. And then I have contrasted what the girls are doing with computer games. So I put contrastingly only about half that figure, only about half that figure. Here's where you would use your language skills. Computer games 34%, half of that is 17%, but here we see girls are playing 16% of computer games, 16% of them are playing computer games. So instead of mentioning exactly half, you will say about half. So I'm not putting 16% there. I'm just putting about half. That figure of girls play these with most opting. Now that we are talking about the ladies, the females in the data, we are talking about what they were doing for computer games and saying that most of them were opting for dancing instead. Here I put how much the score for dancing is, which is 27%. Notice here I use the figures in parentheses. I put it in parentheses, followed by reading at 21%. So I finished with the important data here. If you see the big chunks of it, which was computer games, reading, And I told that the girls were most interested in dancing. uh, and then I'm moving on to, since I talked about reading, I mentioned that what the boys were doing when it comes to reading. Here I use the latter hobby. Remember, latter is what was mentioned last in the previous sentence. So I put the latter hobby in contrast is the least popular amongst boys at just 2 percentage points. See, I use my language to show that it was so small. That's why I use the word adjust. For those who are looking for higher bands, you can use a sliver. Sliver means a small slice. This is exactly a sliver. A small slice is called a sliver. uh, which was at just 2 percentage points. And then here's a nice tip. You can use identically whenever data is the same in both. Here I used identically. Both girls and boys enjoy listening to music at 10%. If you notice, both of them are 10% for listening to music. So I didn't say both boys and girls have 10%, but I use that identically. I use that word identically. Use that word to get higher scores. Once you have dealt with most of the big data chunks, you move to the next body paragraph, which will be little less than the previous one. And here now I'm speaking of only sports-based interests. So I say some sports-based interests were exclusive to each gender, with more males liking basketball 26%, soccer 17%, and skateboarding in that order. Here I mentioned a series. I gave a data series and I brought in all the data here. Remember, we have a time constraint, so there's only 15 minutes to write. So you cannot keep writing basketball, which was at the first position at 26, followed by soccer, which was second. So instead of all that, I just meant in that order. And the reader understands that I said that this was the first choice in ball games, then soccer, and then finally skateboarding, which is not a ball game, but it is more like a sport. So it's sports based interests. And then I mentioned that girls did not choose these sports at all, instead opting for netball and gymnastics. So here we mentioned that girls were not choosing any of these uh, pastimes, that is basketball or skateboarding, but they were only going for gymnastics. So that's my short teaching on how to interpret data using words which will help you to get a higher score. Remember, in a report, you don't have to write a conclusion. So save time. There's no point of writing a conclusion. It won't give you any marks. So don't go for it. Use that time to finish your task 2 essay earlier. And please remember, you must check your writing so that errors are eliminated and you can score at least zero point 0.5 to 1 band higher because the number of errors have reduced. So that's me, IJ Thomas, signing off. For those who are interested, you can stay connected with me on my WhatsApp number +91 97234733377. That is IJ Thomas on WhatsApp, or you can call +91 97234733377. I prefer texting though, and I'm looking forward for you to get the scores that you want. This is IJ Thomas saying happy learning and God bless you.